Hello everyone, welcome to yet another edition of the Paper Pig podcast. A very special edition, in fact. We're going to be talking about one artist, one comic. Because, let me tell you, it deserves it. Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
And he agrees with me, so you know it's a good sign.
Not 100% agree. I think it's good.
Well, you also have not read the same amount of comics I have from this person, so you need
Yeah.
to keep that in mind.
Okay.
So we're going to be talking about the artist known as Shmorky.
Shmorky.
Yes, Shmorky. Now, it's a bit difficult to find information about this person. Amazingly enough, he does not have a Wikipedia page, even though he's done quite a lot. He's quite prolific in animation, both in animation and in comic book production. Let's see, he made a few animations for the somethingawful.org site, which can all be found up there. A few on YouTube. He's responsible for animating the Business Cat animated music video by Mr. Weeble,
Oh.
which is one of the greatest things
Yeah.
ever. He's a very good animator. His style is smooth, round, cute, but also more complex than it looks.
Yeah.
I,
I'd say his animation and drawing is definitely the highlight of this comic. It's definitely one of the most distinct comics that I've seen around. Like, it's not the traditional sort of like, oh, cute little simple characters running around. There's definitely a sort of visual style to them that makes him distinct from every other cute comic out there.
yes, he has a simple looking style that's actually far more complex than it actually presents itself to be. He's done also a couple of Game Grumps animated as well,
Yeah, that's
Sh-
where I remember him from.
showcasing his smooth style of animation, especially when it comes to the use of frames per second. Speaking of attention to details, I noticed he is proficient with the Ren and Stimpy finger. What I like to call
Uh,
the Ren and Stimpy finger. You know, whenever there is a character who showcases a disproportionate finger compared to the rest of the hand and the arm
yeah,
to
yeah,
emphasize a given situation or moment, that's the Ren and Stimpy finger, and I like it very much, and he's very good at that.
yeah.
Just look at the thumbnail for Business Cat.
Yeah,
He showcases one nice finger, just telling you, no, stop right there. It's nice. He also
yeah.
produced quite a few GIFs, like the one you're seeing right now, up here. Hello, little dancing devil.
Hello.
Yes, it's going to be up there once I edit this.
Very nice.
Okay, so he is prolific when it comes to animations, and he's even more prolific when it comes to his comic production. Ever since I found out about these comics, my life has not been the same. I might be exaggerating, but I want it to be a testament of how good I think his comics are. First of all, let's talk about his little gender fluid creatures that pervade all of his comic strips. They are called the Clarfs.
Yeah.
The Clarfs. They are supposed to be a representation of humanity as a whole in all of its characteristics and
Yeah.
the multifaceted spectrum of the various walks of life. In fact, there are specific genders to be found in these cute little characters, but most of the times they are ambiguous, specifically because they are drawn in such a similar way. They both had these bong-shaped bodies, this round face that sometimes showcases a bone kind of muzzle here,
Yeah.
and they all have eyelashes. They all have different shapes and personalities. In other words, they are not defined by their gender, which I find it to be a nice and poignant way to go against the tropes of gender-specific character designs that have overflown not just the comic book industry, but our very idea of what defines characters just by looking at them. So that's a nice little detail. But then I went on to find out that this is a specific choice that he made to reflect what are essentially his personal choices in life. is Avatar, the little blue clarf with the daisy on the side of its head, of their
Yeah.
head, I should say, the side of their head, is supposed to be genderless. Is the epitome of what is the philosophy of the artist himself. And I dare say his philosophy is pretty much thrown onto our faces throughout his various comic strips, because this is a very particular kind of comic with a very particular kind of humor, if you will. How
Yeah.
would you describe it, White Boy?
I
What is a
would say
typical comic in the universe, in the amazing world of Shmorky?
in the amazing world of Shmorky from the basically 250 comics I read, it's basically got this sort of melancholy humor to it. That's first shows off that like we're the cute little characters, but then it's like we're all sad actually deep down.
You
And it's a
nailed it.
it's a very interesting sort of read. But I feel for me personally, because I look into comics like I'm getting a little fun, cute little laugh. It just sort of like it ends with sort of like a just with a melancholy nothingness. It makes you sort of more think about the comic rather than just that's a funny punchline.
That's why I like it.
Yeah.
It presents itself to be zany, nonsensical, and sometimes even just seemingly random, but truthfully, it has depth behind it. And there is a bipolarity, if you will, with the comics by Shmorky. There are some comic strips that just present a setup for a punchline, and said punchline is brought immediately, in the course of 3 to 4 panels, to its most extreme and illogical consequence. It could be something simple, like somebody telling someone else, "Don't touch my game," and the guy then touches it, then kicks it, and then just eats it. It's that kind of humor. It's delightfully nihilistic in a way. It's the kind of humor that we have been exposed a lot when it comes to adult animations, if I had to bring up an example, in which you take well-known tropes and cliches and setups and punchlines from all kinds of jokes and humor that's been experienced by us viewers throughout the years, and you take it to its utmost extreme, to the point that it kills the joke, it buries it, and then it resurrects it, and it becomes something completely different. And if it's done right, like I think he did in this context, if it's done right, it can be quite amusing and hilarious in small doses. And his comics really work well in that particular format, with a really rapid fire kind of humor that makes you go cross-eyed, and then
Yeah.
makes you laugh awkwardly, and then makes you think,
Yeah.
this is kind of clever. Or, this is so stupid, but it's self-aware about being stupid, which makes it clever. It goes full circle in a way. Typically, that's how a comic strip by Shmorky works, with all these gender-fluid little cute characters, which I really find extremely appealing just to look at. And his comics being drawn in various styles, in various formats too. For example, he's proficient in various types of drawing, from the digital ones to literally drawing a comic to a cardboard box. For example, he even sells that.
Yeah.
Sometimes he does a self-aware MS Paint horrible looking one, and so on and so forth. Sometimes he produces really well animated GIFs that he can apparently produce in record time too. And so there's that.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned before, there is a bipolarity to his art, to his stories, if you will.
Well, like, well, what do you want me to say? Like, you're going with the point there with bipolarity. I was interested to see what it is.
Well, okay, sure. I thought we were on the same wavelength, but fine.
I was interested to hear what you were saying, and then you just
Okay, so alternated to the humorous nonsense of those comics, there are comics that are different in what they do, in that they don't present a joke at all. They might have something on the lines of a character feeling sad and depressed, and another character coming in to kiss and comfort them, which is sweet, and it communicates a lot with just so little. What I like about Shmorky's amazing world of comics is that it's the very definition of less is more. For example, there is this page showcasing Shmorky's character placing a vase atop a pedestal, and that vase gets thrown off, broken and destroyed by every person that comes around. And every time the vase gets destroyed, they picks it up, they rebuild it, and every time he does that, it looks more frail, weak, and deformed. That comic is a metaphor for depression. And it's communicated in such a simple, direct, yet profound way at the same time. It's minimalistic and it's effective because it doesn't overstate its themes and it doesn't overstate itself as a whole. It can also be interpreted as a metaphor for the artist's struggle, which leads to depression. It has multiple open windows of interpretation, and that's why I love it. Other examples of that, there is this comic, I don't know if you fumbled upon it already, but there is this comic in which there is this one girl who's acting bad and destroying things, and then Krampus comes in, he kidnaps her, and then asks her why is she so bad. And her answer is simply, why does she have to conform? Why does she have to conform to what other people want her to be? Why is that on her? And that made me pause.
Yeah.
And then there is another comic, which is currently on my desktop wallpaper, of this girl who cross-dresses as a boy. Upon reading the description of that comic, the artist confirms that that is supposed to represent something personal. So there is a lot of himself, or themselves, if you will, put into these comics, into what they represent. The way I see it, all these comics are an allegory for depression, or how to cope with depression. You could also say that given the bipolar nature of his work, of his whole body of work, alternating in between nihilistic abandon and pondering about life and the universe, this whole comic series might actually be a representation of manic depression, if you will.
Yeah.
Which, in a way, it's also a metaphor for life itself. Life is crazy, life is bipolar, life is both joy and depression, life is craziness, madness, but also filled with moments that make you pause and think. And that's why I really, really love the amazing world of Shmorky and all the Clarfs.
Yeah.
So now it's your turn to say something beautiful.
You know, you loved it so much, but I'm playing a little bit devil's advocate and just saying.
It's fair enough.
Saying I really like the comic. It's a very intelligent comic. I just don't think it's all that funny though, because it's so involved with the melancholy of everything that it's just more an interesting read. Just say like, oh, that's an interesting point that the artist has made. It's just even a random comic. I'm just like, yeah, that's a random comic.
Yeah, well,
I know. It's just this. It's the sort of world that Shmorky's going for, and I get that. It's different for different sort of people. Like you love it, and I just want feel like there's a more balance to it. But Shmorky has just put himself into the melancholy of the whole world so much that it sort of drowns out the humor of it, and just sort of makes it more of an intellectual read rather than a comedic read that I would get from any other comic.
Honestly, that doesn't sound like a critique at all. In fact, that doesn't sound like a compliment.
I don't really know what it is. It basically, I'm just trying to distinguish what someone would actually like it for. You would like this comic more for its intellectual sort of stuff, rather than just going into it's like, oh, I want a funny knee slapper for today.
Yes, well, but isn't that the beauty of it? That in just 4 or 3 panels, he's able to amuse you, maybe, and make you think. That's a talent, a distinguishable talent that not many artists and writers have.
Mm.
That's really all you just said is really a testament of how good this artist
Yeah,
is. So
like
it doesn't
I,
really come across as a critique at
yeah,
all.
it's bring it more around. Just basically, like my original intention for like comics like this, it's not really going to make me sort of think and all that. Maybe it's a stupid sort of critique, but I'm just not the sort of person that goes into like a 4 panel like day of the day comic to basically just go like, oh yes, depression, yes. Like it was nice to do it for this time to basically like critique and analyze his work, but it's just not basically a comic that I would just go back to like every sort of day just to see a new update on it. Like I
Well,
go for optimism because I went through like depression, that sort of stuff, and I have done my own self analysis into my own depression and everything. And doing it from this side, I can completely empathize with the guy. I can say, yeah, he's doing a really good job, like spreading that sort of like thoughts and messages out to different sort of people. But I don't know. I don't know why it's not connecting with me. Maybe it's because I've already been through this sort of melancholy feeling. It's just that sort of weird sort of thing where it doesn't connect with me.
well, that's fair enough, but you have to admit there are occasionally some really nuggets of gold that are just funny for the sake of being funny. Like the little girl calling for mommy because she can sleep, and mommy comes in and she's an horrible monster
Yeah,
that screams all the time, and she lulls her to sleep, she thanks her,
yeah,
and she goes away, still screaming. Or,
yeah,
for example, there is this other comic in which somebody says, "Get the hell out of here! What do you want? A kiss goodbye?" And then kisses on the forehead,
yeah,
and see you tomorrow. I love you! Still screaming angrily.
yeah. Yeah, those would be my favorite comics because I'm basically because those are the like little bits of levity between all the melancholy sort of stuff. Like this is
Yes,
the
well,
thing
I
that I always go
actually.
with melancholy and levity. I
Yes,
always feel like there should be a balance of things because that makes the melancholy even more strong when you balance it with levity to basically counteract it.
well, I find it to be an healthy balance in between humor and melancholy, where the two elements really merge together to emphasize the bipolar insanity of the world that we live in. And I'm laughing. Oh,
Yeah,
you know what's so funny? Existing.
yeah,
Yeah, that's so funny. Existing is so funny. Let's laugh at it.
yeah.
That was the amazing world of Shmorky. I don't think his comic book series has a name, unless you want to call it the Clarfs.
Yeah.
There are also other creatures in his comics, not just the Clarfs. Sometimes there are critters,
Hmm.
sometimes there are ducks, sometimes there are just cats.
Yeah.
It's a vibrant world in all of its complexity and simple presentation that's just so nice to look at.
Yeah.
Alright, so I believe that should be all for our review of Shmorky's world, if you will.
Where can people find it?
You can find all of his comics and all of his archive, including GIFs and other such work, on www.butthag.com, which is basically his Tumblr blog.
And you
Yes,
can also find it
Butthag.
the other way too. You can also find it the other way, www.hugbutt.com. You
Apparently you
got
can!
yeah, you got them both ways.
Oh, Shmorky. Oh, I also checked out his YouTube channel. The banner on his YouTube channel says abortion. He
Oh,
also
Shmorky.
does Let's Play videos with his buddy over at Gaming Garbage, also on YouTube, in which they play the worst games or poor excuses of games ever made and ever known to man.
Yeah.
I particularly enjoy his Let's Play cartoon series in which he animates snippets of his of their Let's Play series. So there is a lot to check out about this artist. I will leave everything linked up in the doobly-doo. In the
Doobly doo.
description. Yes, I mean to say in the description.
I like
So
doobly doo.
I like doobly-doo too, but I think Idea Channel has it trademarked.
Uh,
So well, thank you for joining us, everybody. I hope you had fun listening to us ramble about comics once again. And see you next time. This has
Yep.
been Madhog the Master.
And this has been Why Boy. Woo! Swing your arms.
I'm from hell!
And I'm from Canada. It's the same thing as heaven.
Took my words out of my mouth. Okay. Bye now.
Bye bye.